Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yet another video by me, your lovable reporter of news and all things unsaid as your news, and you're here today. Oh man, I've been telling you lately. I've been, keeping up with my exercising and stuff, and as long as I've been like aware of how many calories I've been eating and whatnot, like the protein intake and like the time when I'm actually, supposed to get that stuff in and stuff, like it's actually, working out for the best. I've been rajanging it out, going Super Saiyan. But we got to talk about what's happening in the world. People have this idea that, and I said this before in my previous video, and I know I do that a lot, but I said that they get it in their head that they think that life is just about them and that they're like more special than they actually think that they are. And in the case of like around the world, where you see people who are very much acting in ways that will basically kick the can down the road of accountability towards, future generations that bear no mercy. Like I've been watching this guy, his name is Jake Monroe. Holy shit, man. So he's like some gothic guy. He's like, hardcore into this, like, alternative news, if you will. And he's like coming out. I think he's like situated in the UK as well, but he's coming out. Oh, yeah, I see the English flag in the background, the British flag in the background. So, yeah, of course. Talking about this, his name is Vikram. The Sikh guy who knifed this, Jake guy. This other, Jake guy. So, this other guy named Jake in this incident. And going over like just how fucked up it is, how the justice system is just like going pure leniency on them, and I'm like, yeah, like this is what I've been dealing with. Like you'll tell the cops one thing and they don't give a fuck about it, but the second you do like any sort of like semi illegal or whatever, they'll call you on it, and it's just so hypocritical. So like let's say you're trying to sleep at night and these motherfuckers are purposely coming at you, so you'll come back at them and then they'll be like, oh, this guy's disturbing me, and it's like, yeah, well, what do you think you're doing to me? Like, why do you think I'm doing this? And then it's just like they all like to play dumb like that. And going back to what I've been saying, like, yeah, this is what it means to be a real man. You got to replace them. You got to, look at their women who hate their own fucking skin color. Let's be honest. They hate themselves. They hate their own men. They have like skin lightening cream. It's one of the famous things in India. They don't want to talk about that shit. I'll talk about it. It's like, they have this high, like, get on your high horse and judge you type shit. But it's like, if you actually, like, hold their fucking feet to the fire, it's like, why does the country stink so bad? Why does it have, like, a fucking rape problem? Why the fuck do you guys hate your own kind and shit? Why the fuck are you guys, like, so fucking stupid all around the world? Like, so this is basically, like, if you actually go over the evidence, this is basically a robbery that they're trying to frame because he brought his family out. Like, how much of a bitch do you have to be where you rob a man and like to fucking escape charges? And I know we're gonna hear some fucking retard out there be like, oh, if I could escape jail time, yeah, fuck yeah, I'd do that. And it's like, yeah, of course you'd fucking do that because you're a fucking rat. You're a fucking a little bitch. You're gonna hide behind your parents and shit. It's like, mom, dad, like this robbery on this white boy went wrong. I stabbed him, but he's just choking out and bleeding. I don't know what to do. It's like, okay, son, we'll come there. Then the mom comes there, she takes the knife and puts it back in her house. So that's basically a fucking criminal accessory to a crime and shit. Like, how is this not an open and shut case? Yeah, it's because the Sikhs, dude. Because the Sikhs, they're Pakis, whatever, anything to impress the voter base and shit. I remember this was like one like white um politician lady, and she was like running in like I don't know some like wackadoo party and shit, and then like for some reason she's decided to like start dancing to some like Arab music, and you have this other Arab that is just like, yo, you guys are selling your fucking future out, like your kids and your kids are gonna have the fucking worst time in their lives, and there's gonna be no safeguards for them. They're not gonna have anything that was like available to them over the course of your life, right? Like think about it like this, right? I would have put it by me that like you get one of these like BLM or Antifa guys or even like a KKK member, and they have like a good looking spouse and shit. And it's just like, whatever, they're free from like, the reprisals of society, as you will, because as we're finding out, these people are affecting everybody. They're affecting, your day-to-day citizens, the middle class. The middle class is getting corroded. And I have a hunch. I have a theory behind that. It's a theory, of course. Um, I call it the lion theory or the parasite theory, whatever one you want to attribute to it. So, like with lions, right? They come into another pride or whatever, group of lions and stuff, and they'll like try to mate with the females by like fighting with the males, and then when they fought off the males, they'll go after the cubs and kill off all the cubs and shit. So they only raise their kids. And in the case of like this knife attack, and like there's a bunch of others too. There's like apparently like this like girl, 16-year-old girl who was like raped, gang raped by like a bunch of Muslim guys. Like they got let off the fucking hook. Like it is a wartime situation where you realize two things. One, that this isn't a problem that can be fixed. Sorry, the UK cannot be fixed. You have to kill people. And that's the only solution to this. Like, if you think that like this is gonna go away tomorrow, and the people who made these decisions should be allowed to like procreate and like pass on their legacy, like yo, dude, like what have you done to the human race? Like it's a liability for everybody. That's the way I see it, right? There's this thing where, and I swear, dude, I think this is the UK government and it's content for its people. So Lily Phillips, like one of those like super hoes and shit. That's her like her like career path and shit, right? Was sitting down with her cuck of a husband, and this guy is trying to like make it out to look like this straight face, I act with dignity type of man shit. Like I even heard that like Mr. Bean was dating Mia Khalifa and shit. Like yo, dog, like the UK is kind of a fucking lost cause where you honestly know that there are men in the UK. Like you don't be naive about that, but it's such a liability that all these bad things have happened that like you have to be like, okay, well, this is the unfortunate reality, but this shit popped off over here in Canada, like I wouldn't be here. I'd be like, oh, on the fucking streets, like either I'm getting shot by cops or I'm getting attacked by like, gang rapists and shit, pedophiles. And we're finding out that like, follow back off all my story about like the Toronto police and shit, right? So apparently when they were committing this crime in Spain, they were trying to like get off the hook, so they flashed the badge. Yeah, that's what they're reporting. It's holy shit, eh? So it's like how like around the world you have this like, and I'm just guessing a camaraderie between police officers because it's just like they all know each like their jobs are hard, like whatever, just take it easy, slap on the wrist type shit. Not only were they not having it, but they decided to report on it as a thing to be like, oh, you think that's gonna get you off the fucking hook? So like apparently like this girl's face was like bloodied and shit. They like were punching her for like quite some time and shit. And like yeah, I got arrested by the cops one time too. My friend was like pushing some X. He was a dumbass. I don't know why he needed my help for it. Well, yeah, because you gotta I thought like he needed protection from actual other people and shit who will like fucking jump and rob him and stuff, right? But like I wasn't making any money off it. I didn't really care. He was just like, a favor for a friend. Then I sent the day in jail. Like a dumbass. But before I got arrested, like, the cops were like fucking laying a beating into me, man. And all I was doing was just like fucking shocked. I'd never been arrested before like that in my life, too. And it's like the kind of like realization that like even though you can say, oh, wrong place at the wrong time, like, there are people who take that profession for the sole purpose of, being violent, being highly aggressive, and then like, when they're faggot ass ways can't be like sustained and shit. They can't like gang rape a fucking prostitute and shit. And, like they get fucking violent, and then he got like a fucking Turkish cop with him. So that like they're trying to like keep this shit on because like the thing is that like kind of gets to me. It's just like of the cops being charged for like the more serious shit. It's the two Caucasian ones. The other Turkish one was just like I'm not having any part of this, or I'm just gonna be like the accessory, driving and shit, trying to drive away and shit. So it's kind of like we're not necessarily that much better in a situation over here in Canada where you have to take it onto yourself to not only protect yourself, carry weapons, work out, um, be in large groups now. Large groups is the big one. So, like in the case of Jake, right? Not Jake Monroe, like the victim. Um, what would have benefited him, in hindsight, unfortunately for me to say this, if it comes off as untasteful, is safety in numbers because he had that. The Vikram guy had his family come out, and that's why like his testimony's holding up in court, and Jake's like the whole situation is actually kind of fucked up when you think about it, but not really when you apply the my logic of the lion or the parasite theory where they're just trying to like kill off all your mans and shit to like rape up your women and stuff. And I do mean rape, RAPE. Like there's gonna be a point in time where the girl's just not having it, and the guys, they're not gonna take no for an answer. And me saying it, other people saying it, pointing to this, pointing to that, it's just not good enough for some people. Like they just have to watch a girl like in tears. Well, they actually don't even care because if we're talking about like specifically the Islamic like grooming gangs and like whatever, they don't necessarily have any justice for those victims either. Like it's just like a fucking joke. Like you have to basically oppress the people coming out of the United Kingdom. Like anybody who holds that nationality, anybody who comes from that country, anybody who was born in the country in the past, like 30, 25, 30 to 30 years. I would even go further than that. I'd be like, permanently, like whoever's like coming out of there, I'd just be like, yo, fuck up, fuck any of those mans and shit, right? You fucking deal with that problem. Don't make it my problem, because the way I see it is like this happened to India, right? In ancient times and in times of antiquity, and then when like India lost all those like territories to the Muslims and stuff, like what happened to those countries? They weren't necessarily like places that export large groups of people that like are very useful to society. No, like quite the contrary, right? And then when you look at those countries they originate from, like specifically, like let's talk about Bangladesh, right? Gotta talk about Dhaka and shit, right? So it's like people will point to the unfortunate reality. Oh, there's all these floodings and all these like weather issues, and they all have to migrate into the city. But it's like, but what about the city itself? All the pollution, all the people, all the crowding, all the open air markets and filth and like garbage throwing and like rivers of fucking waste and sewage water. It's just like fucking hell on earth. And then you look at like on the other side, Pakistan, like Bangalore and shit. Holy fuck, dude! Like what happened? Like I thought you guys said you were better than these dirty Hindus, these dirty Indians and stuff. And I'm not saying like India's that much better. I'm just saying that like they're how do you have like a population that's only fractionally as big but waste on like filth on a certain like well, we all know why. And again, another one of my theories is that by lowering the bar, the standard of living for everybody, you reshuffle the deck for the lower and the middle class. So let's say people who are in, they work their whole lives and they want to be, middle class, upper middle class, they gotta, get that income and shit, and then they're living with people who are, low class, who, either subsidized or whatever type of living, and they're you know, quality of life is brought down by these same individuals, and it's like they have to share the roads, they have to share public transit, they have to, pay car insurance. Like here out in Brampton, right? Very much so. And this is why, like, I don't want to own my own car. This is like, yo, dude, where's your money gonna be going, right? At least if you're living out here, because you're basically paying for the mistakes of all these fucking immigrant trash retards, as the people in the UK are dealing with. And it's like one of those things where you want Rupert Lowe's plan to come through, like 100%. You're like, wow, this is a man of the people. This is a guy who's actually, speaking some sense. Like, if this can actually work, this is like what the country needs desperately. We're talking corruption all the way up until the royal family, into this, into that. But you know what? My personal prejudices against Punjabi Sikhs aside, I want to address this one elephant in the room. So lately, people have been going out of their way, and I think it's due to the fact that I mean not Aspen, Hassan has gotten subpoenaed, and I don't even want to get into that. Apparently, according to Tal Oran, he's gonna do 7 years, but then again, I don't even want to watch the videos because it's like I felt as if like me wasting all that time talking about this fucking idiot Hassan has possibly like been time I could have been using doing so much other things, and even he would be like, you know what? As like, unprofitable as that sounds, you're absolutely right. So like, all these people who are making money off of it, myself very much included, yeah, you should be talking about me. I'm not all that important. I get to you being like, yeah, stop talking about me, man. I'm not that great. Great, I'm not that important. Guys, like, getting charged up on that, like, fucking Cuba shit. I'm just, is he really gonna be doing 7? No, dude, shut up. Just stop. Like, wishful thinking aside, this and that, like, I don't care anymore. Just work out. Worry about yourself. Because, like, all these guys, right? And I bring up Hassan as the example, as the reason why I think it's happening. Like, Asmund Gold has been getting a lot of criticism, and they're trying to run that whole racism angle on Asmund Gold over a previous statement he said about, like, basically I think it was about absentee parentism or accountability or some shit like that, and about like how if you don't, like, whatever, this or that, or something about like, and then like they took like something that he said out of context to try to make it sound like, yo, he thinks these people are savages, or he thinks these people are subhuman and shit. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, think about it, like, in the long run. Like, you might be right, you might be wrong about this, but the future generations really don't give a fuck, and they look at you guys as the reason, like, why there's so much pollution, why things are so expensive, and why society is stupid. Because it's like, you can blame a kid for not knowing how to read and write, but then you gotta ask, what about the parents? And you don't think, like, the younger generation, they're not asking that question? Like, we asked that question. Most likely, like, my parents once or twice asked that question, and it's like, oh, we're all asking, where are the parents, right? And the answer is quite simple. Like, they just don't give a fuck. And then, like, in like response to that, so do these kids now. Like, they're talking about this thing called the Zoomer stare, or the Gen Z stare, or something like that. The millennial, not millennial stare. It's like a Gen Z thing. It's like a new age thing where people, like, you'll talk to people and they just like fucking tune you out and ignore you. This happened to me a bunch of times. So like, I smoke a lot of weed and shit. So like, I don't even know like, if I earned that. Like, go up to someone, hey, man, hi, as fucking shit. It's like, oh, not this shit again. Fucking old ass fucking boomer talking about his weed hippie days. He's gonna tell me about the fucking exploits in Woodstock and shit. No, but real talk, like, we have to address the fact that these people have sold out their own children for years and years to come, because they could be right, about this incident with Jake. I don't think they are right, like, but they could be right, for in other instances, and this and that, and it still just doesn't matter. There's, like, people who are just not budging on this topic. There are people who are just straight up fed up with it. And I also have to address the other side of it. Like, this is what I want to call the puppeteering of the cause, if you will, to do as you see fit. So, like, yeah, You can argue that Caucasians, specifically North Americans and Europeans, have been dealing with a large, problem with the influx of refugees, immigrants, etc. Um, what I've been noticing, however, is that the largest problem to these people just so happens to come from their own ethnicity. So, as much as the white man will hate me or hate like black guy or whoever, right? Like just like your standard, immigrants, whatever, right? People who've like basically been around for like ages and really haven't done all that much to garnish any form of criticism, although nobody's perfect, right? Versus like the new arrivals versus, right, like the refugees, etc., right? um I hate to tell you this, but a lot of these laws, a lot of these policies that are benefiting these people are made by white people, dude. Jake, the main people that you should be hating are your fellow white people who are allowing this to happen. Yeah, man. And they're like, propped up by like countless other ethnicities and other groups of people, obviously, using them as human shields. But inevitably, we have to understand that this is a dissension from within. This is corrosion. This is poison that you're all imbibing, and it's from your royal family. It's from your police forces. It's from your media. It's from our media here in Canada too. Like we're no better, right? It's from like all these various things that are coming to our attention. And I didn't actually want to talk about this in this video, but we all are slaves to the class system. It's true. It's true. We all pretend that like, we're above it or we can make it go away, but the class system or the caste system or whatever you want to call it is something that we all grew up with against our will, obviously. And it's kind of like if you take it away, the problems that it creates because of that are so immense that you hate to admit that you are better off with it than without it. Sad but true. Now, what I'm getting at is when you see like the lack of justice for various victims, specifically white versus insert ethnicity, right? And Jake's got it wrong about Sikhism. They don't worship cows. They worship the Islamic, right? Like, so it's okay, dude. Um, the thing is, right, that they want to take your class, take away the class from the middle, lower income, middle class white man and take it for themselves. And then the upper class white man gets propelled further up, like the Keir Starmers, the banking class, right? The non goyim class, as they say. I'm gonna making another video about that, but I gotta whatever. Um, and I realized something. They're the lower classes. Like the fact that they have to jump lines, that they have to basically break the rules to make it work in their favor, means by default they are the lower classes. So, bearing that in mind, most likely what we're all going to have to accept is we have no choice. Like, we have to not only accept the class system, but try to achieve within said system, which is like, to a lot of people, that sounds antithetical, and I understand. It really does. I don't even feel as if like what I'm saying holds 100% value and truth. Like I think that I think this is more of a personal thing where if you think about it in an opportunistic way and capitalize on it, then you can utilize like what other people are doing basically. So like let's take, insert ethnicity and like they just get away with like whatever, right? Because of, past grievances or, perceived racial tensions, etc., etc. Now, what can that do in your favor? Well, for years and years, their kids are going to have that over their head where, the government, other people had to jump in and basically take care of them. Take care of, not them specifically, maybe the parents, maybe, whatever, where you don't have that luxury. And that difference is defining. It makes you above them. So use that to your advantage, alright? Alright, take care then.